You are listening to Personalization Outbreak, a podcast about the collapse of traditional corporate standards in today's more personalized world. I'm Glenn Llopis. I'm a leadership strategist, author, contributor to Forbes, and founder of the Leadership in the Age of Personalization movement. On this show, I'm interviewing executives across multiple sectors to find out how the balance between standardization and personalization can exist. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Personalization Outbreak Podcast. Now, today's episode is part of our special Earning Conviction series, highlighting voices and ideas that inspire deeper trust, purpose, and well-being at work. Now, have you ever wondered why, despite so many perks and wellness programs, we still feel exhausted and disconnected at work? I mean, think about that. I'm sure you feel or think about those things every day. Why are we so exhausted? Well, today we have the honor of speaking with Dr. Suzan Song, psychiatrist, researcher, policy advisor, and the author of Why We Suffer and How We Heal. See, Dr. Song's expertise lies in understanding what happens to people and organizations when they're focused to operate under constant instability and how it changes judgment, relationships, and leadership. She's worked everywhere from war zones to boardrooms, and she's discovered the same patterns that show up no matter the environment. We're going to learn about those. Now, Dr. Song invites us to look beyond the surface to truly understand the human dynamics at play in organizations. Now, in this episode, we're going to dive into critical topics that every leader should hear, like why we don't leave our own identity at the office door, or the danger of mistaking endurance for strength. Now, get ready to rethink everything you know about personalization. See, it's about aligning our work with who we really are. And if you want to build a culture that is more human, sustainable, and coherent, well, then this conversation's for you. Suzan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. Thank you for being here. And by the way, I really enjoyed our prep call. I mean, thanks so much for just taking the time to introduce who you are, what your work's all about. But, more than anything, I'm just really impressed by who you are as a human. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Feeling is mutual.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, why is it that you enjoy helping people in organizations to break free from complex, misaligned situations? I mean, what a thing to enjoy. Why do you enjoy, why do you like that so much? In fact, let's start back. What led you to this path, and then why do you enjoy it?
What led me to the path? Well, I think as everything, it starts in childhood, right? That's where we all start. And my parents have always been entrepreneurial, even though they immigrated to this country from South Korea in the wave of the 1970s. And we landed in Maryland and had liquor stores kind of repeatedly. And I think they were always just striving and struggling, like many do. At the liquor store, there was one robbery that went, my father was attacked, and he was assaulted and kidnapped for attempted murder, and he later died. I was 15 years old at the time. And I think that led me on this path of just working and getting through and just going. And I did. I feel like it didn't really affect me at all until 2 decades later. I'm in Burundi doing a PhD with former child soldiers, and I had to go into hiding. I was targeted for money, had to go into hiding. And it was there that I thought, what is going on? I am a Korean American woman. I'm now in the middle of a country nobody knows and hiding for my life from former child soldiers. Like, how in the world did I get here? And that's when I realized I had recreated a similar scene of violence that my father had experienced.
Wow.
And so I think that's how I started to think more about why we do the work that we do and what's pushing us. And especially for overachievers or high flyers, there's a way that society kind of promotes a lot of this type of work. So with my work, I have a lot of fancy degrees and fancy schools. And so I never really had to sit back and ask myself, why am I even doing this? What is this all for? And when we sit and we unpack that, there's a lot to untangle. And we figure out, well, what is it that's actually driving us, motivating any of us to do the work that we do? So I think that's why I love complexity. Back to your original question, I think people are fascinating and people make up systems. And so the more we have complex systems that have complex people in it. And I think intellectually, and also at a human level, I think that's really fascinating.
Why are people so complex?
Yeah. Well, that's humanity, right? And I think the more we have, I think we all grow up thinking that stability is the goal of life, right? We want a stable job, a stable relationship, a stable everything, work setting. And the fact of the matter is life has turmoil and loss and we are going to be upended at some point. So the question isn't, are we going to experience something really challenging? It's when we do, are we going to have the skills to get through it, not lose ourselves within it?
Do you think that that's what all this hard work is all about? I mean, does it give us those solutions or is there more?
I think all of our hard work, it's so individualized. I mean, that's why I love the title of your show, right? It's personalized. Like so much of this, I can't tell someone what's motivating them. I can't tell them what they're needing to get out of
Mm.
whatever endeavor they're on. But it tends to be that there's something either unmet or there's something of injustice or they're just driven to because something's really exciting to them. But it's going to vary per person, of course.
Boy, I didn't think I was going to go here, but I'll just dabble on it a little bit. In 2021, Suzanne, I declared myself to be a workaholic. And I'll never forget the day I walked into the office and told my team. And that afternoon, I was on my way to Tucson, Arizona. I checked into this place called Canyon Ranch, and I began this 5-day journey of what? Of unpacking the turmoil.
Mm,
And that experience, again, just to make this short, they asked me, because these are things that you plan on, and this place is a retreat um, location, but they have a program that's specifically designed for executives who are addicts.
mm,
And they said, well, Glenn, why are you here? And I said, well, there's 3 questions I want to answer. One, how do I disconnect? Two, how do I care less? And three, how am I going to last another 40 years for my then 6-year-old daughter?
wow.
And so again, we went through a series of things, but it's the whole point of it is as you go through this journey, um, it's a very personal journey. Even though
Mhm.
we have all these same interconnection points, it's what you do with the opportunity. And so at the very end, they said, well, Glenn, did you answer your 3 questions? I said, well, here's how I'd like to answer them. One, how do you disconnect? You connect more with yourself.
Yes.
How do you care less? You care more about yourself. And how am I going to last another 40 years? I need to do those 2 things more. And then they had me take this snow globe and shake it as hard as I could. And they said, do you see all that? When you came here, that's how you were living your life
Mm,
with all that noise. And then he said a few things and it became clear. He said, do you have clarity now?
mm,
I
mm,
said, I do. Why do I share that story? Because I think that we're all living in a battle with ourselves every single day. Not everyone, but a lot of people are.
mm, mm.
So for the one that's listening to you right now, has probably connected with your story and mine. What's that first step to untangle all this chaos?
I think it's similar to the step that you took, which is to insert a pause.
Hmm.
I think we have to have enough restraint in our lives to recognize, okay, something's off right now. We need to recalibrate and fine tune. And that takes restraint. That takes saying, I'm going to hold back right now and notice and pause. And within that pause is so much power
Hmm.
because as you just shared in your pause were the asking of the three questions. Even that in of itself, that's a process there. That's an intervention, right? That if you would never answer those questions, at least asking the questions moves the needle.
Hmm.
And so when you have that pause, you create the space to then think and feel through who you really are at the core, independent of identities, because our identities will change. And too often we think who we are at our core is the identity that we have. But sometimes those aren't the ones that are most valuable to us or the ones that we want.
Hmm.
And so we have the space to then be more intentional about our lives and what matters most to us, which is what you did, which is beautiful.
Why don't people take the time to pause? Because this is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I paused because I knew that I was at my wit's end. It was affecting my family. It was affecting my health. I knew it, but there's a lot of people that they're feeling those same things, but yet they won't pause.
Yeah.
How do you get people to pause? I mean, especially in the life in the world that we live in now. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got to believe that more people are going through these introspections.
Yes. And I think it starts with understanding why it is that people are scared. I think people are scared to pause. And why are they scared to pause? I think that a lot of times people are scared of what's going to come up. Like what will actually, either from their past or their present, I think the biggest fears will come up around, will I be mediocre? Am I enough? Will I matter to anyone? Am I worthy as a human being? All of those questions come up. And, you know, you were talking about conviction before. And I think when I think about conviction, it's acting in a way and being in a way where you don't care about what people think of you anymore. And you're not bargaining your value or your worth for anybody else. To me, that's conviction. And I think to find that conviction and to find that pause, um, you need to have a certain level of feeling safe and secure on some level, or you have someone that you matter to enough that you say, okay, I need to pause now because I matter to this person, or this person matters to me. And so we take it outside of ourselves.
Powerful, powerful. That's powerful.
Mm.
So, you had mentioned to me during our call that, yeah, a lot of organizations talk about personalization, but it oftentimes feels superficial. What's actually missing, you think? What's missing?
I think when organizations, a lot of times organizations will focus on appreciation or and they'll think that that is taken care of and engaging in personalization for their staff. I'm thinking of it as an example. There's this one healthcare organization that I was working with, and they were very, very proud because on National Doctors Day, they gave out these coffee mugs that said, I think it was something like, heroes work here. And so I asked around to the staff and I said, how did this land? Like, do you feel appreciated? And I did the exact opposite. And they said, this makes me feel disposable. Clearly, they don't see me.
Hmm.
I'm not a hero. I don't need to be labeled as such. And what I actually need are scribes and I need time off. I need protected time. And so while appreciation is it's helpful and it's good, that's maybe a first step. Or then a lot of organizations will go to those personality assessments or
Yeah.
work styles, right? And that's great. That tells us our work style. Um, but both of those are missing meaning, and they're missing the capacity of an individual at that point in time. Because there are times when people are dealing with their own illness of themselves or a loved one, or they're having to take care of an elderly parent, or they have something else going on in their lives. So their capacity is not at 100%. Can an organization or a leader, or supervisor, can that person be seen so that person feels human, that they feel worthy? And to me, that's what personalization is. It's saying, I see you, I understand you, and I value you as a human being, not as a robot who's disposable. I think that's what it's missing.
Well, that's probably why so many people are exhausted of these tactics that are intended to show recognition. And in the failed effort of doing that, they lose respect from the very people who they're there to serve.
Yeah.
So let's talk about working with people under extreme pressure. What do maybe high performers misunderstand about themselves? What do you think that is?
I think a lot of these high performers mistake endurance for strength. And they believe that if they just keep on going, I hear this all the time, I just got to keep going. Like there's restructuring, reorganization, and they just say, I just need to keep pushing through, like one foot. And that is endurance, but that's not strength. Strength is adaptability. Strength is knowing when to push on the gas pedal and then knowing when to recalibrate. But I think because a lot of high performers were rewarded very early on in life with over functioning, right? So they're used to over functioning and getting all the awards, and they believe that over functioning is strength, and that's being confused with effectiveness. That's not being effective, that's enduring. And eventually that will catch up with them. That's when I see them in my office. I see a lot of people who are top of their game, and they've mistaken a goal habit for purpose. So they're very good at creating a goal, achieving a goal. But once they've attained it all, they're feeling so empty and disconnected from themselves and from their work, and they're not sure why. I just had someone who made partner, and I watched him make partner in this very well-known law firm. And throughout the whole time he was going for partner, he was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm miserable. I don't want to do this. He made partner thinking he feels so much better. I've never seen him more depressed because the purpose of the why is not there. The meaning behind everything is not there. And it's not values aligned.
At what point do you think, based on the work that you do, that a leader or executive loses their identity?
Oh. This could actually even happen before they become that leader, right?
Yes.
And I
Okay.
think that's and actually there was studies this I forgot what field she's in, but her name is, I think, Herminia Ibarra. And she was studying people throughout their work career and looking at those who were promoted into leadership positions. And she was looking at those who has really, really struggled. And they were the ones who had a hard time doing a shift in their identity. So if someone was going from being a technical advisor and now they're a supervisor, they wanted the supervisor role, they wanted the leadership role, but they kept seeing themselves as a technical person. And so they couldn't quite feel comfortable in that leadership role. And they still continued, and it was just messy. And the people who were actually successful were the ones who made small pivots, like little micro changes. And they said, okay, this worked, this doesn't. I'll take this on, I don't want that one. So I think the identities have to change over time. And we all have what I call these like identity scripts that are written for us. So I'm a physician. I have a a script that I have inherited from society, from
Mhm.
my colleagues around what it means to be a physician, how a physician should be. I should be someone who puts my needs aside, right? Everyone else's needs are more important than mine. I should be hardworking. I should work, you know, 16-hour days. That's the norm, right? These scripts are written out for us. And I think the more that leaders can identify what is their script, what do they want their identity to be, and start making some micro changes so that it's more aligned with who they are.
It's interesting. I'm going to jump on this one. This is good. So yes, all these labels in society have defined us. Um, in fact, we all have so many of them now that apparently we're all these things that we're really not.
Mm.
But because we've been predefined, how do you break free from that? And so I always ask this question. I won't ask you, but I always ask this question of people is, tell me what you solve for. And they say, well, I'm the vice president of supply chain. No, 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 no. That's your title. What do you solve for? I solve for supply chain. No, you don't. What do you solve for? Just to get to the point. And after numerous, I solve for efficiency. Oh, there we go. Now I see.
Mm.
So you know that that's a transferable skill, right? Oh, I could never leave supply chain. Said who? We need efficiency in healthcare. Go to that industry. Oh no, but I've been in this industry in retail
Mm.
for
Mm.
15 years. And I think this goes to your point is that when we're so labeled, we don't even know, we don't have the self-confidence in our own identity because we really don't even know what it is. And I
Yeah.
could share this with you because one of the things that I've done, and you've answered a lot of questions for me right now, by the way.
Mm.
This conversations has helped me understand why I have always gone against the status quo because I've always been in touch with my identity and I've do an exercise to do this so that every year and a half my identity shifts. I used to solve for the identity crisis. Then I solved for helping executives break free from standardization traps. Now I'm
Mm.
solving for earning conviction. So
Mm.
as my mindset shifted and my identity shifted, that helped me evolve over time. So I've never felt I was lost in who I was.
Mm. Mm.
I'm just sharing that story to give further weight to what you're saying. So, how do you advise somebody who has an identity crisis? How do they break free from it?
Yeah, I think first they have to understand what their identity even is, and they can even write out a script of what they believe it is. And oftentimes to think about who wrote that script, because it's not us, it's someone else. It's either our mentors or education or
Yeah.
society, whatever it is. But someone else wrote that script. And so then to rewrite it to what they want it to be, they have ownership over it. And then to start there. So once you have a new script, now it's on you to decide, okay, can I make these small changes to just try it out? And maybe it won't feel right. That's okay. Take it off. Try something else. And over time, it's this iterative process. And now we have something that feels more resonant.
Okay. So here, if I may, real quick, because
Sure.
I love what you're saying. So they try something new. They try something new. And now they come back to you and say, Suzanne, this is hard.
Mhm.
What do you tell them? And the reason I'm asking you this question is I see every day more and more people creating their own self-inflicted wounds
Mm.
because they don't want to do the work. And I understand they're exhausted.
Mhm.
They got other life priorities.
Yeah.
How do you keep people moving forward. So it's not about endurance, right? How do you keep them doing it?
They have to tap in to something that doesn't feel like so much hard work. And that will actually propel them forward. So if they can dial in to what resonates in their life right now, and in the moment when they're trying new things, when something resonates, it's like you're in the flow, right? You lose
Mm,
track of time, you're just in it, and that's what we want to do on a micro scale.
mm,
So when we try new ways of being, yeah, things are going to be hard, but then we have to decide, are there things that we're doing right now where we feel resonance? And even if
mm,
it's like 30% resonant, that's enough, right?
mm.
That's something to move towards. Now, if something is so hard that we say, I just really don't want to do this, then it means you don't really want to do it. Then don't do it, because it's not, you can't force yourself. But if there's something you say, I want to be like this is who I want to be, and you make a step towards that, and it's really hard, but you feel it's 30-40% resonant with where I want to be, then that's enough to say, okay, I'm going to stick with it because it's worthwhile. Because my North Star is this person of who I want to be.
So how does this tie back to something else we discussed about um, the impact of prolonged uncertainty or instability and how this impacts how people think or decide or relate to one another?
Yeah. I mean, so in prolonged instability, our brains operate in very different ways. And I think because I work a lot with people in institutions who are going through chronic instability, it's important to understand the neurobiology of what we're, because we're all human, of what we're all going through.
Mm,
So when there are periods of prolonged uncertainty, um, I would say one that many people are in right now in this country, for the past year, there's been a lot of change in the workplace. Um, our brains are hardwired to perceive threat. Now, whether or not that threat is real or if it's perceived, the brain doesn't care. It's going to act in the same way. So what triggers the threat response center of our brain, and that triggers this sympathetic response, which everyone heard, the fight or flight response. So it's
yeah.
fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And I think people think of that as like a traumatic response for only trauma, but we all have this in periods of chronic instability. So in the workplace, it looks like the fighting isn't fighting, physically fighting people. It's they're more snippy with each other,
Mm,
right? They're more demanding. They're more impatient. That's the fight. And the flight is just procrastinating. Like, I know I have to do this deadline, but I'm not going to do it right now. And they just keep pushing it off. And the freeze is, I'm going to go home and I know I should, read a fun novel or take a bath or engage with people, but I'm going to watch Netflix for 5 hours. That's the numbing out. And then the fawning is one that's newer in the field that I'm in, but it's essentially when people are overly placating.
mm,
So they're saying yes to everything. Like, yeah, I'll take on that project. Yes, I can do that. Yes. And then they have all of this responsibility that they have and they feel overwhelmed with it. And then they feel guilty that they can't manage. So this is how how workers and staff, this is how they're engaging right now when they feel there's a perceived threat. And leaders have this as well. The difference is in that staff are often looking to leaders, and leaders are feeling this pressure to have certainty. And so they're saying things and they're acting in ways that it's not congruent with who they are, how they feel. And then the staff can feel that, and then they lose trust. So
mhm.
it's a no-win battle for anyone.
So what do you say to those leaders that are they've reached a point of just being performative to survive?
Mm, yeah. I would take the pressure off of them and say, you do not have to prove yourself and be certain about anything right now. And what actually studies have shown that what people really need and what they respect more is just transparency and more clear communication. And you can tell people and let them know that at the end of the day, people just want to be seen. So if someone's in a leadership position, they don't have to have all the answers. It's actually more helpful if they connect with people and say, essentially, I see you. Yeah, we're all going through a hard time right now. Or, yes, I recognize this reorganization of the company is was very challenging. It's just acknowledging and validating a human, how people are experiencing the process. That's all that they need. They don't have to have certainty.
What about the leader? Because I've heard this plenty of times, that really don't want to pay attention to anybody's feelings.
Mm,
I mean, goes back to, what I call, the standardization mentality. It's
mm,
about the endurance, the performance, the do as I say. Uh, you stay in this box. You do what we tell you to do.
yeah.
I don't care about people's feelings, Glenn. I've got to drive the number. And
Mhm.
we live in this world now that where people's feelings matter, but there's many people who don't care about them. What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just good luck because they're they're not. I mean, I don't know.
I love your directness. No, it's true.
I mean, they're not gonna being seeing people as human, which means they have emotions too. That should be operationalized because it's strategic to do that. You're not if you have someone who's struggling and you force them into meeting all their deadlines and pushing their benchmarks, they're not going to perform well. And they're going to make a lot of mistakes that are actually probably be more costly in the longer term.
Agreed.
So there's actually no point in forcing that. And it will do harm, I think, in the longer term and the short term as well.
So how do you get a leader that doesn't care about feelings to turn around their mindset? Let me give you some context.
Mm,
Um, the one of the more popular ones I hear is, Glenn, I came here to lead. I didn't come here to be anybody's babysitter.
uh,
Glenn, I came here to do my job. I'm not here to be a therapist. There's other people that do those things. When the truth is, leaders at some level do need to play the role as therapist.
mm,
They do need to see and know their people as individuals.
mhm.
But we were never taught how to lead that way.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back to, um, how do we really create an environment of personalization? And how do we get it to a point where people realize that the most fundamental thing that we all need to do is to see and know people as individuals?
Mhm. For the leader, it has to start with them first, right? Because I think our ability to engage with another person as on a human level is dependent on our ability to engage with ourselves in the same way. And so if there is a leader who's saying, I'm not a therapist, I don't care about feelings, well, fine, right? That's not, unless they are a therapist, that's not their role. But what that's signaling to me is I don't have the capacity or the competence to know how to deal with humans who might be suffering or going through a hard time or who might be human in some way. So I need them. It's almost like I need them to be robots that are not changing every day. I can rely on them all the time because that's how I operate myself. And that leader is going to burn out. They might get very far in their career, but they're going to burn out in large part because people are not going to be drawn to them. People are not drawn to leaders like that. It's just not the ones that are going to give 110%. Those staff and workers they have choices of where they can go and who they can work for. So they're going to go towards someone who treats them like a human being, especially right now in this age of AI and tech. Like they know that they're disposable and replaceable. So the really creative, strong ones who we want, they want more than just, a brand name doesn't mean very much at all. Like they want to be seen as humans.
Okay, I know we didn't talk about this one, so just you could either pass or give it your best shot.
Okay.
So as we get close to wrapping this up, what are some behaviors that leaders have that have historically had that they've historically had that um that they can't rely on so much anymore? And other behaviors that maybe they never had that they need to rely upon much more on. I don't know if I
Mm.
phrased that correctly, but in other words, what we're talking about here is essentially, I'm getting out of this are not only the things that we need to learn more about to become a more effective leader or effective employee, but also those things that we need to unlearn
Mm.
to become an effective leader or executive or employee. So, what are those things we need to unlearn and then maybe relearn? How's that? Maybe that's better put.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think about it. I think the first and probably only thing that comes to mind right now
Yeah.
is I think we need to unlearn the motivating people
Hmm,
part.
hmm,
I think a
hmm,
lot of people focus on how can I motivate employees to do better with perks and mostly perks. And I'll have laundry on facility on here on site, and we'll have gyms and all of these things. But we have to learn how to understand people more. And that is a very hard thing to do. Yeah, I think we'd also have to unlearn that, I guess, as we talked about before, that endurance, right? That endurance is in some way effective. And true effectiveness is, I mean, I don't like this term resilient, but it's being adaptable, right? And being
mhm,
able to see people and give them bandwidth and understand that if someone is like, let's say, if they're a strategic thinker, then put them into a role of leadership, not technical, like it kind of matching people's strengths and values
hmm.
with the role, right?
You know what? As I listen to you, I could talk to you all day. You're what I am receiving today is that we need to start over one person at a time.
Mm.
There's just too many unknowns when you consider what people are going through these days. That it isn't, to your point, it's not another perk. Don't share with me another set of values that everybody could understand or can interpret differently, but apparently we have to follow that value a certain way. Stop trying to create these band-aids that are intended to reclaim our trust when what they often do is further um, dissolve the trust away.
Yeah.
So it's where organizations, let's talk organizationally, where what can you share with them that they need to rethink because these old school tactics just don't work anymore. People can see right through them. I don't need another Starbucks card.
Yeah. Right.
No
Right.
offense to Starbucks. I like my
Right.
Starbucks, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll say I'm thinking of places where I've seen it in practice. So I work with a lot of humanitarian organizations, right? Because
Mhm.
that's a lot of the work that I'm doing. And And so you see some of these humanitarian organizations that are working in current crisis. I mean, these are life-threatening, active war, armed conflict. And when I see how they engage with their workforce, they're not thinking about who is the most competent, who is the most loyal, who's the most committed. They ask who has the bandwidth right now, who
Hmm.
just came back from the field, or who is excited and needs to go out and wants to go out. And so they find a way because they know the people. And I know, of course, there are always levels of hierarchy in organizations, but the systems can be set up such that we can break down those into smaller units where people do know each other. So one supervisor does know 20 people, right?
Mhm.
And we can just have a little bit of a pulse so we can deploy people as needed where they should be based on how they are in real time. I think that's, to me, those are good examples of how it can be done.
Before we close here, tell us a little bit about your book. Why'd you write it?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So
Come
it's
on, you have a copy there, don't you? Let me see it.
I do.
Where is it? Where is it? It's okay. Just
This
show the
is the
cover.
book. This is
Why We Survive and How We Heal. Why did you write that?
Why We Suffer, How We Heal. So this book came out. I've thought about writing this book. I mentioned the whole Burundi experience when I was in hiding. And so I thought about writing that. That was many, many decades ago now. But it was during the pandemic, actually, where I thought I was going to die. I had this was early on. I saw a lot of physicians. I'm on all these social media groups, and a lot of physicians were writing from China, from Italy, talking about this new virus. They weren't sure how to manage it. And they're like crowdsourcing, vent settings and clinical protocols. And I lost two colleagues early on to COVID. And I thought I was, I could get pulled in on some medical reserve. My kids were young, they were 3 and 4 at the time. And they only know me as a mom. And so I wanted them to know about my past life, but I also wanted them to know that life is going to be hard. Like there are going to be a lot of life. That is part of the beauty of life and the challenge of life. But here are some ways that you can manage through it. And it was based on things that I've learned. I've worked with survivors of torture, hostage trafficking, and then also like these C-suite leaders and founders. And there are some people that just flourish, even despite the turmoil of life, this chronic instability. They flourish. And I was thinking to myself, what is it about these people? Like, how do they have some kind of a gene or a personality trait, or like, can we learn this? And that's when I came up with this framework, which is what I call the three friends of winter. It's narrative, rituals, and purpose. And people use some form of these three tools to find a sense of grounding and mastery during the hard times.
What's the most significant one that gets us over the edge? Like, what is it?
This is completely different, you
For,
know,
yeah, of
based on
course.
each person. I think I was, all my training was in the United States. And so I have a very Western kind of therapy approach to healing, which is what narrative is. Like we love our thoughts and we love to like manipulate them and change them and all of that. But in many other parts of the world, I mean, people don't go to therapists. They're not telling their deepest, darkest to people. And I found that people heal through ritual
Hmm.
a lot because ritual brings them to community, to belonging, to a sense of meaning. And then for other people, it's purpose, right? What draws them out of themselves towards a larger cause. Yeah.
Suzanne, I really appreciate you. This has been a very enriching discussion. I'm sure our audience is going to, appreciate this very, very much. And um, keep doing your great work. And thanks for educating us and enlightening us. You're adding a lot of value to the world, and I'm very, very grateful for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, as we end every show, when you lead in the age of personalization, or even when you're trying to earn conviction, you will see things that others don't, do what others won't, and keep pushing when prudence has quit. Thanks again, Suzan.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Personalization Outbreak. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. If you enjoyed the content, visit ageofpersonalization.com to check out our free streaming video series and learn how to get involved in the movement. I'm Glenn Llopis. I wish you a good day, and remember, without strategy, change is merely substitution, not evolution.